So I'm going to go ahead right now and share my screen. All right, I hope you can see my screen right now. So can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, type 3. Okay, you said my screen is not legible. Okay, let me Okay, network is really shaky, really shaky. But then just know that the class is being recorded, so we still have access to it. So I'm on now. I hope you can see my screen. All right, so before that break in transmission, I was talking about scope management. Okay, so I said the scope is the boundary of the projects that you have. So it's important that you understand the scope, the boundaries of your project, so you don't go beyond your project, because as a project manager, you have to be very particular about the use of resources. If you're going to go beyond the scope of a project, it means you're going to be using more resources than you require. So scope management is very important. Okay. So the next is risk management. This is another foundational element in managing a project. In every project, you have risks, right? Risks are simply things that could go wrong, unwanted events, all right? Probabilities that could make your project go sour or go belly up or go south. So understanding and managing risks proactively is essential, right? Is essential for minimizing potential issues and uncertainties that could impact the project's success. So, as a project manager, you have to be looking out for those things that could impact negatively on your project, right? Whether they are stakeholders, people, right? Whether they are industrial factors, whether they are organizational factors, all right? Or whether they are uh, personal issues, even within your project team, among your project team members. So you have to be on the lookout for those things that could actually make your project go wrong, all right? And that's what we'll talk about. That's what we mean by risk management, okay? So the next is change management. During the life cycle of a project, a whole lot of things change. All right. At the outset of the project, when you have your project charter developed, you have your project plan in place, and then you proceed, you start the project. A lot of things are going to change as the project goes on, depending on the duration of the project. So you have to know that. You have to have that at the back of your mind. You have to expect change. Someone said that change is the only constant thing. It applies to life as much as it applies to project management. So you expect change. Even if the project is supposed to last for a day or an hour, within that hour, things could change. All right. So you have to have a change management plan in place, right? Because you know that projects often encounter changes, and these changes require proper handling and adaptation, right? You have to be able to adapt your team members, adapt resources to accommodate that change. So change management involves assessing and approving and implementing changes effectively. So you have to assess what these changes are, assess them proactively. That means you have to be ahead of the change. Do you understand? You have to be ahead of the change to be able to identify them and address them when they come up. Okay, so those are the key elements when it comes to project management, right? So, what are the key takeaways that you're supposed to get from these foundational elements? Number one, you understand the significance of foundational elements in project management success. I made that clear that for your project to succeed, you have to understand those foundational elements we just mentioned, okay, and have them in place. You have to recognize the importance of strong leadership, stakeholder management, stakeholder engagement, and team dynamics. All right. You also need to appreciate the value of clear project objectives and effective scope, risk, and change management. So these are very, very important. And then you need to apply these elements to enhance your project outcomes and delivery. Okay, so those are the key takeaways from this session that you need to have. Okay, so we have been able to cover the foundational elements of project management. Now let's move on to the next section where we're going to be talking about projects and the importance of project management to help deepen our understanding of the project fundamentals. Remember, we're still in the project fundamentals. So keep up the great work and let's continue our journey towards becoming proficient project manager. Let's go to the next. Okay. All right. So section 6. Here we'll be talking about projects and the importance of project management. So I want to welcome you back to this session. Here we're going to understand the nature of projects and their significance, right? Which will set the stage for effective project management. So let's move on. Now, we've been talking about project. But what is a project? What exactly is a project? A project is a temporary endeavor with a defined beginning and end, undertaken to create a unique product, service, or results. Okay? So a project is a temporary endeavor, all right? Temporary endeavor. In other words, it has a beginning and it has an end. It's not just something that goes on forever. Even if the project is going to last for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, we have projects like that, all right? It's still a temporary endeavor. It doesn't go on forever, all right? So it has a defined beginning and a defined end date, irrespective of the duration. Okay, and then this project is undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So there's something unique that this project is aiming towards, all right, which differentiates it from every other project out there. So projects are distinct from specific goals and constraints. So we have projects and we also have operations, all right? In an organization, there are project work and then there are operational work. That's why we have project manager, we have operations manager. They do not do the same thing, right? So we'll be seeing the relationship between project and operations management a bit later, right? So let's move on. So what are the characteristics of a project? What are the characteristics of a project? Now, a project has some key attributes. Okay. Let me be sure. Oh, okay. Sorry. Before then, I jumped one slide. Before we go to the characteristics, let's talk about examples of a project. Sometimes we are tempted to think that, okay, a project is just about building or construction. No, project is more than that. All right? Project is much more than that. Includes improving a business process within an organization. If you are in a department, you are in a unit, all right, in your company, and then you want to improve an aspect of your business process, maybe your accounting process or your delivery process or your order taking process, all right, or even your customer acquisition process. All these things are processes within a business or within an organization, all right? So every attempt or every effort geared towards improving any of these processes, business processes, could be referred to as a project. Okay. So another example of a project is acquiring and installing a new computer hardware within an organization. You want to install a hardware or even a software in your organization. It could be a project. Constructing a building is also a project. Developing a new pharmaceutical compound for market is a project. Conducting research to develop a new manufacturing process is also a project. So we have 1,000,001 examples of what a project is. Right? So it's for you to understand that a project is beyond just building construction. Several examples out there that make up a project. Okay, so let's move on. Now, what are the characteristics of a project? Now, when we talk about characteristics, we're talking about the attributes of a particular endeavor that qualifies it to be called a project. Remember, I just mentioned that we have operations, right, which are different from a project. Okay, so for an endeavor to be called a project, it needs to have certain attributes. Okay, so what are they? Number one, unique deliverables. A project ought to have unique deliverables. So what are deliverables? They are actually results or outcomes. And these results or outcomes are unique to projects. Each and every project has a unique outcome or a one-of-a-kind result that differentiates it from another project in another industry or in another location. All right? So unique deliverables are key attributes of what a project is. You could also call it objectives, specific objectives. All right? Then secondly, defined scope. Project needs to have clear boundaries and objectives. All right? They need to have clear boundaries. They need to be measurable. All right? And thirdly, temporary nature. The project is a temporary endeavor. I've already mentioned that before. It has a finite duration, a defined start and end date, not just something that goes on and on forever. Okay, so next is cross-functional teams. A project has cross-functional teams, meaning that a project cuts across different departments. When we talk about functional teams, we talk about subject matter experts. We'll talk about the people who are involved in the project. Where are they coming from? What are their functions, all right, within the project? So we have people from different functional areas within an organizational setting. Let me make it clearer. In an organization, we have different departments, right? We have accounting, we have engineering, production, manufacturing, marketing, customer service, and what have you, right? So if you have a project, let's say, for example, um, a, a business process development project, right? You want to improve a business process, or let's say you want to improve or create a product that the company is going to put out to the market out there. That is a project. You want to develop a new product line for a company. Let's say, for example, Nestle now. You want to develop a new product line, right? For the market out there. So you see that this project is going to cut across, right? It's going to cut across several departments. For you to come up with a product, a unique product that you're going to launch into the market out there, right? You need to involve the marketing department, the people in marketing, right? You need to involve the sales guys, people who are actually in sales, selling the product. You need to involve the production guys, the engineers. Do you understand? The product designers. All right. So you need to involve a whole lot of people from different aspects of the department. You need to involve people in accounting. All right. You need to involve people in delivery. So that's what we mean by several functional lines. All right. That's what we mean. It has cross-functional team. It involves diverse expertise, not just one person or one set of persons. So last but not the least, a project is progressively elaborated. It has progressive elaboration. Project evolves as details become clearer. So depending on the life cycle of the project and the duration of the project, the project will keep evolving, right? Because at the beginning of the project, most of them assumptions in projects, right? And in project management. Okay. So as you go into the project and the life cycle of the project begins to unfold, some of those assumptions become clearer, right? So they move from assumptions to certainty. So as you become more certain about some things, you can now begin to take better decisions as the project move implied. Okay, so it's very important. All right, so let's move on. Now, what is the importance of project management? Why is it important that we um, involve project management in our organization or in our endeavors? Why is it important? Project management is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to project activities to meet project requirements. All right. It helps individuals, groups, public entities in diverse ways. Right. So you can see when you're using project management in your work or in your job role, you are applying knowledge. You're not just doing things arbitrarily, all right, or off of your head. You're applying knowledge that has been proven to work in several industries for many years. That's why this thing is called a standard. That's why we call it PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. These are standards. So you're applying this knowledge, right, that has been proven and tested. You're applying skills. You're applying tools and techniques to your activities. So it's not just about the activities, it's about the things that you are applying, the resources that you are applying to meet your project requirements. So that's what makes project management very, very valuable in our organizations. Okay, so let's look at some of the importance here. Project management ensures that projects are executed efficiently. So when you're applying knowledge, you're applying skills, you're applying tools and techniques that have been proven to work, it helps you execute your project efficiently. So you're not just doing things haphazardly or arbitrarily, right? You're different from the guy who's just doing trial and error, right? Or who's just doing things based on what he feels is right. So you are using specific methodologies to carry out your work. Okay, so it helps you execute more efficiently, right? So it helps in meeting objectives within constraints. So as a project manager, you know you have a specified objective. And of course, you know for every endeavor, there are constraints, there are limitations, there are obstacles, there are odds out there, right? Has to do with the market, has to do with the industry, things that has to do with the government of the day, their policies and all that, financial institutions, you know, even things like weather conditions, right? All those things could serve as constraints for your project. So, but applying project management principles and methodologies can help you, overcome these constraints um, as much as practicable. Okay. Next, project provides structure, processes, and tools to navigate complexities and uncertainties. In today's business environment, there's so much complexities, so much. In fact, we live in a vulgar environment today, volatile, uncertain, you know. So it's so uncertain, it's so volatile, the business environment of today, and it's so complex. All right. So project management helps us to be able to um, navigate these uncertainties. It delivers the right product at the right time. All right. So project management objectives. You have specific results. You have specific outcomes that you are looking. So with that, it helps you to be able to deliver the product, the right product at the right time. Okay. Project management helps to resolve problems and issues. Whether you know it or not, you're going to in your projects. You have to know that. You can't be naive about that. All right. You can't pray it away. You can't wish it away. There are going to be problems. There are going to be issues with stakeholders, issues with subject matter experts, issues with regulatory agencies, issues with suppliers, vendors, name them. Even within your own organization, if you are operating within the environment of an organization. So issues are going to come up, problems are going to come up. But project management has a structure or procedure for resolving issues and resolving problems. All right. Even conflict management within the team, there are ways that will resolve them. We're going to look at that much later when we're talking about project resource management. All right. So last but not the least, it helps to identify, recover, and terminate failing projects. So when you have projects that are failing, you have projects that are no longer working or no longer able to meet the project requirement, project management will help you to be able to identify them and if possible recover them. All right. And where that is not possible, you can terminate them. Right. Projects can be terminated when it is certain that it can no longer meet the requirements, right? Then they can be terminated. Okay. So these are the reasons why project management is very important. Moving on, Project management also helps us create business value. This is very important. Business value creation for our clients, for our customers, for our teams. Project management helps us to add value, all right, by delivering projects on time and within the budget. Okay, meet stakeholders' expectations, minimize risks and uncertainties, and also enhance collaboration and communication. Okay, so you can see that the organization has a current state, and then when you apply project management, apply those activities that we'll be talking about, activity A, B, C, so you get to the future state. So there's value. All right. What is the consequence of not using project management in your endeavors as a professional, as an employee, as a business owner, as an individual? What is the implication of not using project management or poorly managed projects? Has implications. Number one, you're going to have schedule delays. You're going to have delays in delivering your products. And of course, that is going to impact on customer satisfaction, okay, which is definitely going to impact on your sales. All right. So you don't want that. Missed deadlines. You already have a deadline or a stated date that you're supposed to deliver on a particular project or a product, and because of poor management in your project, you are not able to deliver on time, so you miss the deadline. Imagine the impact that's going to have on your reputation as a project manager, or even the reputation of your company. Okay, so that's not a good thing. Project or budget overruns. Budget overruns. Every project has a budget boundary. All right. So if the project is not properly managed, you're going to find that you are spending more resources, right? In this case, financial resources, more than necessary. So at the end of the day, you find out that and you're already out of money and the project is not yet completed. So that's what we call budget overruns, right? Nobody wants to hear that. No stakeholder or project sponsor wants to hear that. After budgeting for the project and everything, and then you come back again and say, money don't finish you. So how did that happen? It shows a whole lot of incompetence, and all that. Next, quality issues. Quality issues. Poor project management. So don't properly manage a project, you could have issues with quality because there's no proper monitoring and control. All right. There is a particular knowledge area called project quality management. So when the project is properly managed, there's no proper monitoring and control. At the end of the day, you will not be able to get your quality, the appropriate quality that the customer actually wants. So at the end of the day, you have dissatisfied customer, dissatisfied stakeholders, dissatisfied clients, right? Then you also have rework. Sometimes the customer may ask you to redo whatever it is, all right, rework. And sometimes you might have to now go and source for money somewhere else to be able to redo the project. So we've seen cases like that. um, oftentimes. So also you have uncontrolled expansion of project. So when the project is poorly managed, it can be expanding uncontrollably, and that is not a good thing. So as a project manager, you want to ensure that you have your project management practice in place, so you can avoid all these negative implications or impacts of all right. So what are the key takeaways from this section? Obviously, you've been able to understand the definition and characteristics of a project. Now you understand that the project is a temporary endeavor. It has a defined start and end date. It has a specified objective. Okay. So management in achieving project deliverables. We already talked about that. And then you also appreciate the business value added by effective project management. Okay. Then we've already acknowledged the consequences of poorly managed projects. So those are the key takeaways from this section. I want to congratulate you for having come so far. So next, we'll be looking at the relationship between a project, program, portfolio, and operations management. All right. So let's dive into the next section. Now, if you have any question so far, you could leave it in the comment section, or maybe you can chat with me on our WhatsApp platform. Okay, and definitely I'll address your questions. But like I said, everything we're discussing using this slide is based upon what you have there in your project management body of knowledge. So everything is there in full detail. All right, so let's go to section 7 and discuss the relationship between project, program, portfolio, and operations management. Great job on your learning journey so far. Now we're going to understand that these management levels enhances our ability to navigate complex organizational landscapes. So understanding the differences and the relationship between what a project is, what a program is, what a portfolio is, and what an operation is, and how to be able to manage them, right, differently, because sometimes they could overlap. That could be very instrumental in navigating the complex organizational landscapes that we have today. All right, so what is project management? You already know that it is the application of knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to meet project requirements. Okay, so we already know that project management. Now let's look at program management. Program management is the coordinated management of related projects to achieve strategic and benefits. So it is the coordinated management of related projects, right, to achieve strategic objectives and benefits. So a program is made up of a series of projects, right? So that are similar. You have what? A program. Are you getting it now? So let's say, for example, a program could be populating an organization, right? Or developing a human resource system for an organization. That could be a program. So within that program, you have a set of projects within them, right? And that could include recruitment, all right? Could include recruitment. So you have to recruit the people. That is a project on its own. And then you now talk about onboarding them. That is another project on its own. And then you now talk about training and development. That could be another project on its own. Okay, so putting these different projects together, you now have a program, right, or a human resource program for the organization. I hope it makes sense. Apply it, cascade it in any other area. All right. So, but just understand that a program is made up of a set of projects that are interrelated. All right. And they are carried out to achieve strategic objectives and benefits for the organization. All right. So, moving on, let's look at portfolio management. A portfolio is a centralized management of projects, programs, and other work to achieve organizational goals. So portfolio management is a centralized management of projects and programs. So a portfolio is made up of projects and programs, while a program is made up of projects. Are you getting that now? All right. So next is operations management. It is the ongoing management of an organization's activities to deliver products, services, and results. Okay. So operation is an ongoing management. You can see that now. Whereas a project is a temporary endeavor, it has defined start and end date. Operations management is not like that. Operation goes on and on and on and on and on. Right? You can't say this is when it's starting and this is when it's going to end. It just keeps going on like that. Right? So those are the differences. For example, accounting is an operations, right? Accounting is an operations work. You can't say, okay, this is when we're going to start this is when we're going to start the accounting, or this is when we're going to end it. So it just goes on and on. All right. Customer service. These are ongoing work in organizations that have no defined start and end date. Okay. So how do they relate? How does each of these relate? You can see the diagram here. Now, this diagram was actually called or extracted from the PMBOK that you have. So if you look at the PMBOK, you see this detailed diagram there. You can see an organizational strategy. You have your portfolio here, right? So your portfolio is made up of programs. You have program A, program B, right there, right? And then you also have program BI, okay? And then under that, you now have several projects, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see this red box here where you have portfolio, right? Coming down, you now have program, and then under them, you now have projects and operations. So a program can be made up of both projects and operations, right? And then when you put the operations, projects, and program together, you can now have a portfolio, all right? So that could be a winning strategy for an organization. Right. So visualizing this hierarchy helps you to understand how these levels interact and contribute to organizational success. So project and program alignment. How does a project and a program align? Projects often contribute to programs which collectively advance strategic goals. So I've already mentioned that before. You have projects put together to make up what? A program. Okay. Example, a project to develop a new product might be part of a program to improve product innovation, right? The other time I use the example of human resource system, developing the human resource system for the organization, and then having projects within that a program, right? So this is another example now. You can have a program to improve product innovation, to come up with new products, right, for the organization. So you could have projects within that particular program to get that done. And those projects could include customer survey. That could be part of the project for the product innovation program, right? You have customer survey, and then we could have default analysis, right? We could have research. You understand? So all these are projects that could be confined within a product development innovation, product development innovation program. Okay. So next we have program and portfolio alignment. How does a program align with a portfolio? Programs in turn contribute to portfolios reflecting broader organizational objectives. So I've already mentioned that when you put several programs together, you can now have a portfolio. All right. Example, programs focused on customer experience. Customer experience improvement may contribute to the customer-centric portfolio. So, if you're trying to create a customer-centric organization, right, an organization that is focused on customers, customer satisfaction, customer loyalty, so we could develop, we could create a portfolio for that, and within that portfolio, you can have several programs, and within those programs, you can have several projects, but all geared towards a customer-centric portfolio. Does it make sense now? All right. So moving on, let's look at operations and project stroke programs. Operations provide a stable environment for projects and programs to deliver value. Now you can see the alignments. Okay. Operation is like a platform. Operations help to create an enabling environment for projects and programs to be able to run. For example, I mentioned accounting as an operation. I mentioned customer service as an operation, order taking, delivery, all right? So all these things are operations work, all right? So they provide a stable, enabling environment for projects and programs to be able to run. You cannot have a successful project or a successful program where there are no operations. So they are key, they are very important. Example, operations support ongoing customer service while projects enhance service quality. You see the relationship now, right? You can see that diagram here. Again, this diagram is called or extracted from the PMBOK guide. So you can always find it there in your PMBOK guide. All right, so what are the key takeaways here? Number one, you understand the definition of project management, program management, portfolio management, and operations management. Secondly, you recognize the hierarchical relationship among these management levels. So there are management levels. We have portfolio managers, we have program managers, we have project managers, all right? And then we also have operations managers. So these are different managerial hierarchies that you need to be familiar with. So you also appreciate how project programs and portfolios align with organizational objectives. Then you also acknowledge the role of operations in providing a stable context for project and program delivery, right? So those are the key takeaways that you need to have from this particular section. So having gotten that, I want to congratulate you for covering this section. Now, in the next section, we're going to look at components of the project management guide. What are the components within this guide, right? And this is going to be the last section we'll be taking today. So keep up the good work as you continue your journey towards mastering project management. All right. Hope you're following. Okay. So section 8, components of the PMBOK guide. Now here we're going to understand the components that equip us with the tools to navigate the complexities of projects. So I'm just going to take the first part. I didn't want this class to go beyond an hour. So let me see. It's already over an hour. So I think I'm going to be ending shortly. So let's just run through the first part of the components. So what are these components? What are the components of the PMBOK guide? These refer to the fundamental elements and chapters that make up the Project Management Institute's project management body of knowledge, the PMBOK guide, right? Now, projects comprise key components that, when effectively managed, result in their successful completion. This guide identifies and explains these components. So that's what the guide here is all about. That's what this section is all about. We're going to be identifying what those components are and then explaining them, because you're going to need the understanding of these components as we move into this project management course proper. And the various components interrelate with one another during the management of a project. So you need to understand that. You need to understand what are their relationship. Like we just looked at the relationship between a project, a program, a portfolio, and an operation, right? So that's just one aspect. We have several components, thousands of processes and and some other process groups that interrelate with one another, which you need to understand their relationship and be able to work with them to have a successful project. So let's look at these interrelationships. You can see this diagram here, all right? On top, you have what we call the project life cycle, okay? And that includes starting a project, organizing and preparing, carrying out the work, ending the project. So that's like the life cycle of the project. And from there, you have the process groups, right, which feeds into the life cycle. And then you have the knowledge areas down here, okay? So, but let's just look at this component. First and foremost, you have the project life cycle. Every project has a life cycle, the beginning, ongoing work, and then the end, right? The life cycle is made up of phases, right? Phases that the project has to pass through from start to completion, okay? Very important. The project life cycle is made up of the project phases that the project must go through from the beginning to the end, right? So what are project phases then? If a life cycle is made up of phases, so what are these phases? A project phase is a collection of logically related activities that culminate in the completion of one or more deliverables. All right? A collection of logically related activities that culminate in the completion of one or more deliverables. So when you put several activities together, all right, and then you integrate them to get an output or an outcome or a result, which we call deliverable, that marks a phase of a project, okay? Now, we also have another component here, which we call phase gate. Phase gate. Phase gate is a point held at the end of a phase. So when you get to the end of a phase, you have what we call a phase gate. Another name for it is kill point or stage gate or phase review, okay? So that's for that. The next, you have project management processes. Project management processes. These are series of project management activities managed within a project life cycle to produce one or more output from one or more inputs by using appropriate tools and techniques. All right. So within the project life cycle, you're going to have a lot of processes, all right, activities, you understand, interrelated activities which are managed within the project. Okay, so you manage them using one or more inputs, and then they produce one or more outputs. All right. Then, of course, you involve tools and techniques to be able to get that done. So all that is what we call project management processes. All right. And you have several hundreds of processes within a project. So we'll sometimes say that a project is a process of processes. All right. So next, let's look at the process groups. So we have processes and we have process groups. These process groups are made up of processes. All right. Now, basically, we have 5 process groups in project management. The first process group is the initiating process group. Initiating process group. Now, these are the processes performed to define a new project or phase of a new project. All right? So at this point, you are initiating the project. It's more or less like an ideation stage where you identify a problem or a need within an organization, and then you decide that a project is required to be able to solve this problem or meet this need. Do you understand? So at that point in time, you start talking about collecting requirements. What are the requirements for this project to be able to solve this problem? Identifying objectives. So that's in the initiation phase. All right. So next, you now have planning. So after you've decided what the requirements are, what the objectives are, all right. So you can now go into planning. How do we go about this? So the planning process group involves those processes required to establish the scope of the project, refine the objectives, and define the course of action required to attain the objectives. Okay, so here it's about you now know the objective, the broad objective, and then maybe you can now break it down to specific objectives. Okay, and then you now begin to define the course of action that you're going to take to be able to attain those objectives. So that's what you have in the planning process group. Okay, and next we'll move to the execution process group. Execution. Execution. These are processes performed to complete the work defined in the project management plan to satisfy the project requirements. Right? So this is when the rubber hits the road. All right? When you begin to walk the talk, when you begin to put pen to paper. Are you getting it now? So that's what we call execution. Here you are now applying resources, all right? You are now, this is the doing part of the project management process. So next you have monitoring and controlling. Monitoring and controlling process group. So these are processes required to track, review, and regulate the progress and performance of the project. Okay, so those processes that are required to track, review, and regulate the progress and performance of the project, we'll call them monitoring and controlling. So during the life cycle of a project, you're going to have to be monitoring, to be tracking, to be reviewing, regulating the progress of your project to ensure that at the end of the day, you arrive at the stated objective. Okay, it's like you're sending a missile from here to New York, right? Or you're flying an airplane from here to Kenya, all right? From time to time, the airplane is going to veer off the route, right? So that's why you have a pilot. So you keep adjusting during the journey, right? To ensure that it stays on course and it gets to its destination. So that's what monitoring and controlling is all about. As a project manager, you are the pilot for this project airplane, all right? You have to keep adjusting and tweaking every single thing to ensure that at the end of the day, you meet up with the project objective, right? So last but not the least, you have the closing process group. Now, these are processes performed to formally complete or close the project phase or contract, right? So when you have gotten to the point where you have come up with an outcome, or you have gotten the result that you were that you intended to get at the outset, you can now begin to close the project, right? So there are a series of processes that are involved in getting this done, all right? um, um, customer review, all right? Contracts, closures, making payments, different things. Of course, we'll look at all that in details much later, all right? So, but so on, just understand that in project management, you have 5 process groups, as you can see in this diagram here, all right? Starting from initiation to planning, execution, controlling, and then supposed to be controlling here before closing, right? So that it becomes a complete cycle. Okay, so I hope you've gotten value. I said that I didn't want this class to go beyond an hour, but it has gone way beyond an hour. So I'm gonna be about an hour, 30 minutes. We'll stop here for today. Now, we're gonna be having our next class next week. It's gonna be all right, so that you can log in. So I want to thank you for your time. Still have still have about 3 people, which means you're following, means you're still here. So if you could reach out to me on our WhatsApp platform, and definitely I'll address them, right? But like I said, I encourage you to marry your project management body of knowledge, right? That is the knowledge base for everything that we are doing. Everything I'm discussing here, you already have them, so that I'll send yours to you. But I believe I'll send it to everyone who is in this class. Okay, so thank you, and this is where we're going to be calling it a day. Now, next which is the components of the project management guide. We just did the project management process groups. So next we'll be going into the knowledge areas, all right, so that you understand those components, because we're going to be looking at them in much detail later on. Okay, so thank you and have a restful night. Bye for now.